Hey everyone, it's Brett from Misfit Media, and I'm sitting here with Chris Say and Lola Glaudini, who are the founders of a new organization called 911. They started their business about a month and a half ago in the midst of COVID-19, and I'd love for them to explain about what they're doing, what they've been up to. They got such a cool concept. So without further ado, how are you guys doing? What's going on with the business?
Hi, thank you for having us.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having us. Go ahead, Lola, why don't you talk?
Well, I would say first of all, just to put it out there, we're not a business. We operate sort of like we're a nonprofit, so
Yep.
there's no business model, but we were basically a charity or a service for trying to help restaurants in our community stay in business, for them to stay in business by raising money and then placing orders at these restaurants and using the food to feed healthcare workers in our community who are servicing COVID patients and are just sort of working overtime right now. We started with just one meal for one ER, and that quickly grew to several meals a week, which quickly grew to several meals a day. And we're now feeding about 6,000 meals a week.
Wow.
Across greater Los Angeles. And we now have 5 other chapters in the US and a couple more growing as well. So we'll probably have about 7 chapters this week or next week.
Wow, 6,000 meals a week that you guys provide.
In LA.
Wow. Oh my God, that's amazing, guys. That must feel pretty good, right?
Yeah, it does.
It does. It feels good to know that business is going towards small independent restaurants. Our criteria are no chains. We don't deal with any chains. It's all independently owned neighborhood restaurants.
Got it.
A couple of the chefs have like a couple restaurants, but they're not a restaurant group or a partnership, you know?
Got it. So all independent restaurants. Okay. And what's the reason for that, guys, about doing no chains?
Those are the people that need the help. Chains have corporate financing, backing from banks. You know, we're not interested in that. We're interested in our community, in our in trying to help small businesses stay afloat, and that you know, there's a big trickle down effect of that, which is helping people stay employed. So it's not just the restaurant owner; it's the line cook, the dishwasher. You know, it's people who need to stay employed.
Of course. Yeah, no, I respect that, and I love the local community aspect. I just, you know, I know a lot of franchisors. You know, people have the perception of a lot of franchisee owners that the corporations providing them with so much. Oftentimes, they're not, though, and it is tough. You know, you know.
No doubt. I mean, I think
and name recognition. You know,
of course.
You know, pop over to a Jersey Mike's or a whatever.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying. No,
I think in the beginning we basically just ran with the momentum of the concept of grassroots help, and we weren't going to sort of broaden beyond that because we felt as though, you know, one of the people that's a principal contributor to all of this, probably the most principal contributor, is a woman named Judy Hahn. And she has a lot of personal relationships in the restaurant industry in Los Angeles. And she feels as though the most gratifying part of all of the work that she's done over the last 4 weeks has been reconnecting with a lot of these restaurant owners, which is, you know, a very important aspect for us to maintain the sense of community despite the fact that we can't see each other. And working with smaller independent restaurants with more sort of seemingly more controlled settings with fewer employees and less overhead just makes the whole thing feel sort of more intimate for us and like we're helping friends. And
absolutely.
That, you know, not by choice. We're not selecting the restaurants per se because they're friends, but they become our friends in the process.
I love that. And I think for so many restaurant owners, I mean, obviously now they appreciate that, but I think cultivating a positive culture for your restaurant is connecting with your community, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like what you guys are doing is the bridge to get them to that point, which is amazing, guys. I love that. And so tell me about, so you guys are partners in this. You started this charity about a month and a half ago. Obviously, I'm sure that it came about because of COVID, but talk to me about how it really came into fruition? Like what happened?
Well, so my wife is an ER physician at a hospital in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And right when there was a high degree of anxiety inside the department based on projections for the COVID pandemic, she just started to get a little bit anxious about a lot of things, including PPE. What happened was she was at work one day and came home and said that a juice delivery had come to the department, and everyone there was so grateful that people on the outside world were paying attention to the hospital community and the people inside. And she just wanted to sort of mobilize in some way to, because we didn't know what was going to happen. And so I sent an email to 5 people I thought would care and could do the most good. And Lola was the most sort of energetic responder and said, well, let's raise some money and send Cedars a meal. Let's just figure it out. Amazing. And I'll let her take it from here because she sort of put the other piece of the puzzle together.
So the other piece of the puzzle is that at the same time that I received Chris's email, and I should also say that Chris's wife is a dear friend of mine. So, it was, of course I wanted to listen to what he was shouting out. But at the same time that he emailed me, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who owns a couple restaurants in LA, and he was lamenting that he was having to lay off so many people that are like family to him, and how heartbreaking it was. And it was sort of like a little aha moment of what could be binary in this situation. And so I just sent out a group text to a bunch of friends and said, hey, Venmo me a few bucks and let's place an order and get some food over to my friend's ER. And that happened. And then one of my friends who was in that group text is a caterer, and she happened to have been speaking to a friend of hers who's a chef, who was saying, I'm going to cook everything in my pantry because I'm going to close my doors. Who do you know who needs meals? And she was like, wait a second, Lola's gathering money for meals to a hospital. How much food do you have? And he said, I can make, this was Joseph Centeno of Barama. And he said, I'm going to make a couple hundred enchiladas. So she called me and she said, come pick him up. I picked him up. I took him to Chris. Chris drove him to the hospital. And it was like,
wow.
We just didn't stop. That was the beginning, and we just didn't stop. And the money kept coming in because people I said, hey, Venmo me a few bucks. They sent that on to other friends who sent that on to other friends. And I was getting all this money coming into my Venmo from friends and friends of friends.
Wow.
And I quickly realized that I was going to be taxed on that. And so
wow.
Nonprofit.
That is amazing though, guys.
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, I think we benefited from a lot of early goodwill.
Yes.
I don't know whether or not, we intensified our efforts at just the right time.
Yes.
So we kind of organized and broadened our team to include more people with influence and people that could get the message out to on a sort of wider scale. And the money, which is the most critical thing in the equation, because we can't pay the restaurants unless we have enough money to fund, the employees to make the food. We want to get food to hospitals, but we need money to pay the restaurants to make the food. But we just benefited from this great sort of perfect storm of goodwill, people listening, people being probably afraid and wanting to do their, right by their communities. It hasn't slowed per se, but I think if we had entered this or tried to do this maybe even just a week later, I think the momentum would have stalled.
Got it. Man, you guys are solving a massive pain point because you're keeping the restaurant employees in business. You're helping your local community, and then you're connecting them to people who really need this help from the restaurants. I mean, this is so cool, guys.
I mean, it's a couple of interesting things that also, interesting benefits that also sort of revealed themselves over the course of this, which is number one, is that, a lot of these loans that unfortunately restaurants are having a hard time getting are dependent, or at least the payback of the loans is dependent on keeping payroll up and running. So hopefully a lot of the money that the restaurants that are involved in this are receiving for their from the PPE loans won't have to get paid back because we're helping them keep payroll on staff. Another interesting benefit is for the physicians, like it's kind of not just the physicians, everybody that's working in the hospitals. It's kind of amazing the response that we get when we walk into the hospital. I mean, they're so overwhelmed with gratitude. And part of that is because it's harder for them to get food. It's not just that they're working long hours. My wife used to drive to work, leaving 15 minutes early and stop to get something. She can't do that anymore, without a lot more planning and a lot more sort of time in line. And so it's nice that they don't have to, it's not just that we're feeding them in their working so hard. Like I said, it's that it's actually more difficult for people on the go that don't have a ton of time and have families to take care of. They can't get the food that they want in the ways that they normally did. That whole system and that supply chain is shut down for them. So there's no takeout at the hospital. They can't call in orders in the same way. So it's solving a lot of problems we didn't even foresee.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, guys, for us as an agency, we've dealt with, we've heard every story you can imagine from restaurants dealing with this whole situation. It's been, a tragedy for everyone, but, I think we can argue that restaurants have taken it, harder than a lot of industries, obviously.
Yeah.
What I can say over the last month of doing this with our clients is one of the most successful strategies I've seen has been doing a buy one, give one deal.
Yeah.
People are just responding to it so well because, I think everyone can feel for the first time responders on this. Everyone understands that they're working overtime. They're dealing with a very stressed environment and inside at work and at home. Right. I mean, this whole quarantine has got everyone going a little stir crazy. Yeah. So I think what you guys are doing is extremely noble. It's amazing. And it sounds like, a lot of people are interested as well, which is why you guys have just grown so quickly. So going back to that first week, you said the first week it was a couple of Venmos. Now you're then just LA alone, 6,000 meals a week. Obviously you guys aren't using Venmo anymore for this. Walk us through kind of how you went from Venmo. What's been the process of growth? What are you guys using now? How does it work? How does everyone else get involved if they like?
Well, you know the details of this really well.
Yes. So my sister is in nonprofit. So the right things have to align, right? So I happen to have a sister who works in environmental nonprofit world. And so I called her and said, hey dude, this is what I'm up to. I suddenly have all this dough and I can't keep accepting this money, but I want to do good. So what do I do? And she said, you need to go nonprofit, but to go nonprofit takes like 8 weeks of bureaucracy, to file this. So what you need to do is go under someone else's umbrella with a fiscal sponsor who has a 501c3 or a C4. So she got me in touch with the fantastic people at March On Foundation, who also run Future Coalition, and she has done work with them. My sister has.
Amazing.
So we were lucky because we had a direct line through my sister to the March On people, and they called me and in 5 minutes, said, what's your pitch? And we said, raising money to keep our local restaurants in business and using the food to feed frontline workers. And they're like, great, done, we'll sponsor you. And that was it. And they've been really incredible. They kind of set up our infrastructure of our website and how the donations work and how the banking works and how we pay the restaurants and how we sort of have a grid of structure within our organization. And also for Chris and I, who co-founded this together, and then we also have sort of 5-6 people who are really our core group who started this. I mean, Chris and I may be the co-founders, but we brought these other 6 people on immediately who are doing just as much, if not more, heavy lifting at this point.
Yeah.
So shout out to all of them. And within that group of us, we all have lives that we're going to have to return to.
Yep.
And we all have careers and families. And this has been a wonderful outlet to be able to feel like you're doing something during this crisis. But the wonderful thing about being in the structure of March On is that we're sort of, we're setting it up so that we're going to be able to hand it off to them.
Absolutely.
We also, among the 7 of us, or I guess there's 8 probably, I think none of us have any experience in the nonprofit world. And
Not
the
one.
experience, what?
Not one of us.
Not
No.
one of us.
No.
And so, I mean, even the numbers of that name the organizations, like we're in a 501(c), like we learned that when we got folded.
We learned
into
that 3
one,
weeks ago, 4 weeks
yeah.
ago.
So, I mean, you know, we needed that kind of help, what they call fiscal sponsorship. We needed help, you know, setting up that banking system. And in large part, because one of the first conversations I had about this was, I was most, with a strategist in New York, the thing I was most afraid about was that we'd either be perceived as fraudulent or would we be the victims of fraud. So that, and it's actually occurred. People have set up dummy accounts under the name of Dine 11 on some of the same platforms we're using.
No way. Already.
As a way to funnel money to themselves instead of to us. And none of us wanted to be perceived as being part of a fraudulent problem.
Wow.
We wanted to be seen as part of, like, the whole, you know, the whole reason why it succeeds is because people can trust that we're actually delivering food to the right people and that we're using restaurants and paying them. And if that system of trust falls apart between your donors and your organization, then you look like frauds. So that's why we document everything. And, you know, social media has been a huge benefit to the growth of the organization. And we document all the deliveries that we make, not just because it's exciting and fun and is a good thing to look at on social media, but it's evidence that we're doing it. And we're not just some, you know, goofballs sitting in our basement taking the money.
It's like a social contract. Hey, this is us doing our stuff that what you said we are doing.
It is.
I love that.
So we needed the kind of experienced hands at March On to kind of, you know, lend us credibility, lend us a website that like provided you with the tax ID number so that when you made your donation, you knew you could get a tax deduction for it, you know. And the nonprofit status is a huge benefit. You know, it's like not just for marketing, but for the people that are donating. It's win-win all around to be involved with an organization.
And it also makes it so, you know, there have been some organizations that have matching funds that have come to us, and we had to be legit for them to feel comfortable doing that with their companies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
guys, it's so cool. So obviously, you guys said you didn't have experience in this space before. What were you guys doing? Because it sounds like there's a lot of moving parts to this, and you guys must have some kind of experience in something of some matter that led you guys to be the experts at what you're doing. Because it sounds like in just the last month and a half, you guys had a lot of success with this. I mean, it's pretty amazing. What were you guys doing before this?
I want to answer this because I want to praise Lola. I think what this did was, there's a couple of things that it did. One, I think the reason why it worked out for us initially is because we're all pretty honest brokers in the world, and we're all the people that are involved in this are all pretty good networkers without the intent of just networking for the networking's sake. We have lots of friends that go way back, and lots of friends that have a lot of reach, and we all kind of just intuitively knew that we could tap into those resources and those friends that we've kept for all these years to help us out and to make contributions and to spread the word. That worked phenomenally well. Especially with some of the people, like 4 of the 8 people had like incredible social media reach. And that was luck. But what really happened as well was, I think it brought out skill sets and that I would imagine that Lola probably didn't even think she had. You know, she's been like a tireless organizer and sort of troop leader, and just, I don't know, Lola, you contradict me if this isn't so, but like, perhaps she didn't learn all the spreadsheet programming and stuff like that, but she is an incredible organizational leader. And, you know, it's just kind of highlighted, I think, like I said before, not to be redundant, but skill sets that were probably underutilized before and now can be part of all of our strengths moving forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it sounds like for you guys, you've been a good little yin and yang, it sounds like, for the most part. That's the most important part of that, having a partner.
We wound up being pretty good partners, I think. Huh, Lola?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that I think that the thing that you tapped into, I think that's the strongest thing, is just like that we are very, what you see is what you get, cards on the table, radical transparency, we just ask, like, some things have come our way, you know, like bigger organizations, for example, that offered to absorb us. And we were like, wow, that would be nice to kind of be able to just not have to do. And then we were sort of like, but their organization doesn't really help the small restaurants. And that's really like, we all in our group all feel that the doing good is within our community, that the good that we want to do is really localized around, restaurants are such a cultural hub in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah.
And to be able to preserve that, a tiny Thai restaurant in Burbank that was going to go dark, we gave a lifeline to. They have told us we have given them a lifeline, and that restaurant is alive because we have ordered from them repeatedly. And it just feels amazing. And if we had kind of let a larger group absorb us, they wouldn't know about that little restaurant.
100%.
There's another piece of this too. When we were trying to sort of branch out to other cities, there was reluctance because we started ours so organically and so rapidly. It scaled up so quickly because of so much different skill sets with the core group. And when we reached out to people in other areas, they were like, well, I don't know if I know 4 other people that are going to be willing to do this, because it didn't have the same organic start. Mm-hmm. But our point was from the beginning, if you guys raise money like Lola did for the one meal to send to Elmhurst in New York Hospital, that's a good thing. That's all you have to do. You can't do this incorrectly. You can't screw this venture up. You're just doing good for either one restaurant or 100 restaurants, one hospital or 100 emergency rooms. Like, you're only putting good into the world. And with that, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's sort of failure proof, you can't mess up good intentions.
Wow. Wow, it's so cool to see this. I mean, it's I think you said, you guys both aligned at the right time, both together, but also this moment we're all dealing with COVID-19. It's been hectic and crazy for everyone, like I just mentioned. How have you guys been personally affected? Have you guys, how's your quarantine going personally?
I'll go first. We both have actually been pretty hit in different ways, but similar but different ways. My wife was presumptively positive very early on. Most likely she took care of 2 patients that were positive for COVID about 6 weeks ago. And because she started to show symptoms, she was relieved of her duties at work and quarantined at home. And then my son, who's 14, also started to show symptoms, so he was quarantined too. So we had 2 sick kids, or 2 sick people at home we were taking care of right when we were launching 911. So it was pretty hectic time, and awesome and invigorating. And my other kids were very understanding. I have 3 kids. But it was, I think before this was sort of back when it felt more like a zombie apocalypse than it feels like waiting, for this to end. And so we really didn't know what the progress of the disease was going to be like. And there were all kinds of weird, stories coming in from different outlets about how, day 14 you can feel fine, and day 18 you can be on a respirator. So we were counting the days, wait until, she was out of the woods. But it felt like any day her illness could have descended into a very bleak place. Wow. But she came out of it. She's back at work, which is why I keep working on 911, because she and her colleagues are still there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Lola, what about you? How's it been for you?
It's been challenging, mostly just because my kids are, doing the remote schooling and online, and we have a small house, and we have 2 tween boys, and they're just fighting nonstop, and it's challenging in that way.
They're talking to my kids. They're talking to my kids on the phone. They're getting by.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I've heard a lot of different takes, because I can't stop looking at social media as well. And it is a difficult. I'm going to wax philosophic here for a second, but I mean, these are difficult times. But I think if you pay attention, like we did with 911, if you just sort of pay attention to the good and not focus on the bad, you realize that your kids are actually with you more instead of them being up in your shit. It's like, I have more time in my day in some respects because things are just moving a lot slower. Time's kind of, frozen. And so it gives you, for me, it's given my wife and I an opportunity to kind of just reflect on the benefits of having a good life and be grateful for the things that we've had thus far, you know?
Yeah, I love that. I love what you're saying about being grateful, because I think in this moment, there's so much things that we can get high stressed about, high strung about. I know for a lot of families back with their kids, maybe they're back from college or whatever the case, it's new and it's frustrating, especially for the college kid. I was thinking about, all the college kids that just went off to college, excited,
Yeah.
and then they're going back home. So it's,
well, I mean, interestingly, the individual or the person I reached out to in San Francisco to help us launch up there is my sister-in-law,
Yep.
my wife's brother's sister, or my wife's brother's wife, and her daughter was back from freshman year at college back east, and she was the one who convinced her mom to launch 911.
Oh
and
my
so
God.
she's been a huge help, like getting
So cool
with most of the social media outreach. So yeah, you're right. It was a total disappointment for her to come home from like the best thing that's ever happened to her, but at the same time, she gets to do something different that she never thought she or expected she'd do.
And during these high stress situations is when innovation happens, right? I mean, it's one of those things that, it's a scary thing to think about. I was reading a stat this morning that said 30% of the restaurants will not come back after this. 30%. And it's such a scary number to think about, it's really scary. And who knows, maybe that 30% is someone that we're already on the edge of teetering of going out of business or whatever the case. But it sounds like obviously you guys coming in is a great lifeline, like you said, for so many of these people. I mean, it's crazy, Chris. I like you said also about being grateful, because I think in these moments we do need to appreciate the things we are grateful for more than ever, right? I mean, I'll tell you for myself, every single morning I wake up and I write 2 things I'm grateful for from the day before. I do that every single day, and it's a great practice. Yeah,
it's an age-old practice that's really that helps. I mean, I think obviously, I was reflecting because I used to own a bar back in Philadelphia years and years and years
very
ago.
Cool.
And I was thinking, like, it would be really difficult to be going through this right now if my bar were closed. But it might be, and it would be really hard to be grateful for anything if this happens, if like the week after I'd opened. So, gratitude is harder in certain circumstances, to be sure. But
yes.
just like trying to, like I told the people in New York, like, if you get one meal out, it's better than getting none out. Being grateful for something is better than being grateful for nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think what you're doing is obviously fantastic. It's really, one of our clients told me this is like, Brett, it's a very trying time, but I think for those businesses that come out of this, they're going to come out of it stronger than ever. Their the connection they have with their employees and team is going to be stronger than ever. It's really building that kind of family connection. Like when what you guys are doing, especially, you're only helping that, you're only aiding them in that kind of growth phase, right?
Hopefully.
I think we'll see for a lot of people too that might enter the market during this time. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the restaurant space over the next 3 to 6 months. All over the place. I know in Florida's, I think, recently opened up what they can offer. I know New York's obviously still in full lockdown. It's been very interesting to see kind of where people have taken, what things have happened. We've had clients, spoke to a Brazilian steakhouse yesterday that they've turned their steakhouse concept into a butchery, and they're now doing subscription surprise meats. So you can sign up for a basically, I think it's a weekly or monthly plan you can choose, and every single week they'll send you a new exotic meat, and it's kind of interesting.
It is. I mean, necessity is the mother of invention. There's no doubt. So
absolutely,
there's a lot of restaurants, right, Lola, in Echo Park that are like doubling
that have little grocery stores.
Yeah,
and like a lot of front of the house stuff that they're doing, sort of like prepared takeout, but also kits, like pizza dough kits, and with have everything that you can make at home.
I love what you
if things localize in a way, like, I mean, we're big advocates, I think, in general as a team for that sort of thing anyway, and that's why the small restaurant, like, we're helping the independent mom and pop shops. But honestly, if like there's more places for me to walk to and get fresh produce from or semi-prepared meals from, I'm all for it. I mean, these kinds of changes, I don't know if anybody knows where they'll lead, but fewer cheeseburgers and French fries in a drive-through, the better, as far as I'm concerned. I know it's business and I know it's jobs and all that stuff, but the world in my mind kind of needed a reset button anyway. So if this helps benefit, the future,
maybe you're right. I mean, I love on your guys' website. I grabbed this quote. It said, part of what defines our neighborhoods and communities is the restaurants and food we share as Americans. I think that is so, so, so true.
Yeah.
Whenever you travel, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to explore the local foods, right?
Most people, yeah.
Food is what defines us as a culture and community. And I think what you guys are doing is, again, extremely noble for during this time and such a cool concept. I mean, I think, I think so many restaurants, they're trying to find ways to do this. One of our clients actually in LA, Fat Sal's. Have you heard of Fat Sal's? Place?
Sadly, no. But
they're in West Hollywood.
okay.
Definitely someone you guys should talk to as well. They partnered with another charity group about doing something similar to you guys, but sounds like what you guys are doing is even more unique, honestly. And I think definitely a connection you guys should make. I mean, they're an incredible concept, doing really well. And overall, this is incredible. What do you guys think is like the future for Dine 111? I mean, obviously it happens kind of spur of the moment. It grew so quickly. Were you guys looking to this after the next 3, 6, 12 months from now? What's that look like for you guys?
I mean, Lola already touched on it a little bit, I think, and I'm going to let her run with this, but I think that because we started this knowing that we all had day jobs that we're going to have to return to eventually, we wanted it to be shepherded by people we trusted in the nonprofit realm. So we're glad to have the Martin Foundation behind us. And they share our view that we would, as long as, the finances are there and the donations keep rolling in, we would like to pivot to restaurants that were that are on the brink of solvency, and to health, like places in the world where people are facing food shortages. That's it. Like, it doesn't have to be people that are first responders. It doesn't have to be hospitals or respiratory centers. We will continue to help those people if they request it. But what we're really concerned with moving forward is that there's a lot of people out there, kids that rely on their school systems for lunches, you name it, that they're just not going to have food. And if we can pivot towards helping them in the next few months, then we'll just be very happy.
That's so cool. And how about the messaging? I know you guys said you've been using social media a lot to talk about your stories, talk about what you've done and getting the message out. But is it mostly organic kind of growth you've seen through this? Or how have you guys done the marketing to get the word out of what you're doing in general?
Well, let's see, I wouldn't say we have any sort of marketing brain. We sort of, we had a couple people in our group that were more savvy with social media and posted for us. And then that actually attracted some people to come on board who took the reins with social media and sort of coming up with ideas of how to get interesting people involved. And one of the things that we have done is, right now is not really a time that you want to be aligning with big personalities and celebrity. But one of the things that is great about people who have such a large presence on social media is that they can shout out for you. And so what we decided to do, rather than that just be empty, is to have a celebrity do a drop off of the food, or to have someone nominate their favorite restaurant in their neighborhood, so that that person then is saying, I love this restaurant, and Dine 111 is going to deliver this restaurant's food that I love to healthcare workers, and I'm going to pay for it today.
Got it.
So one of the fundraising ways that we are trying to get awareness is we're not so much tapping the celebrity just for their name, but for their involvement, their interaction, their interest in their local restaurant.
Yes.
So that the awareness is also to that restaurant.
That's so cool.
We also, I think another really bizarrely organic part of all of this was very early on. I think Lola and I, and probably Tom, another early adopter in the team, decided that, like, if we targeted a few people that could get the word out there the most and the loudest, that would be the biggest help. So, like, our first big press thing was on Madeline Brand on KCRW. And that was just because a friend of mine knows Madeline. I actually know Madeline too, but not very well. And it was, it's a noble cause. We believed in it. We weren't asking for, we weren't begging for money for an unseemly cause. And so when people heard about it and they heard the story that we've been telling you for the last little bit, they kind of naturally responded and helped us out. And that actually, again, because of the timing of when we started it, we were really lucky to have those kinds of opportunities. And they just sort of built on top of each other, and the momentum was created for us.
So cool.
Yeah.
So now you guys, so you started in LA. You guys are now in LA, SF, New York, Long Island, and Marina, right?
Marin.
Marin. Sorry, Marin. That's right. And amazing. Okay.
And we have a New Jersey chapter, right, Lola?
New Jersey, and we have. They're not on the website as of yet because they have not been absorbed yet under our fiscal sponsor, but that's in the works. We're also working on Philly and Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Oh, and DC.
This is fantastic.
But it's all grassroots. It all has to happen with the community in that area. So what happens is we get an email saying, I really want to do what you're doing. And we say, then do it. Yeah. And here's how you do it.
That's so cool.
We have a little thing on our website that says, this is how we launched and here's how you can do it. And it's sort of like a step-by-step of what we did. Wow. And that came about just by people emailing us saying, how do we do this? And so we were like, wow, we should probably write this down. So we created a PDF that people can look at and then just copy the model that we did. And it's very adaptable because it's sort of like, this is how we did it and how it works for us. But if something else works for you, for example, we decided that we wanted to have volunteer delivery drivers because then, rather than having a Postmates or something, that cost then goes to the restaurant. Yeah. And so if we have volunteer delivery drivers, the restaurant's taking all of the money and not giving a percentage to the delivery. But in New York, that doesn't work because nobody has a car. So we teamed up with delivery.com actually approached us, and it made sense to team up with delivery.com in New York.
Wow.
So, it's all.
That's so cool.
How does it adapt for you? Because
New York, I know New York specifically, I mean, we've talked to a lot of our clients there, and it's a lottery to even go to the grocery store right now.
Is that right?
You literally, you could show up and not be able to buy anything. And so I think even more in an area like that, what you guys are doing is you're providing, like you said, it's hard for a lot of these first line responders to get food. It's hard for everyone to get food right now.
Yeah.
It's also they get off a shift and there's nothing to eat.
Yeah.
And you're off of a shift and maybe you have groceries and maybe you don't. When do you have time to stand in line for groceries? And then after a shift, you're going to go home and you're going to cook. And if you have kids it just becomes compounding, right?
It's such an interesting time. And again, I think after this, we're going to see a different restaurant world. It's going to be incredible to see what happens, what new innovations come from this. And obviously you guys are born from this, which is so cool. So Chris, you had a bar before this, you said in Philadelphia?
I did. It's still there.
Nice.
Actually. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. What's it called?
It was called the 700. It was at 2nd and Fairmount Streets in the Northern Liberties part of Philadelphia before Northern Liberties became what it is now. I guess we opened in 1996. It's still there.
Amazing.
Yeah, a lot of fun. It was a perfect thing to do in your 20s.
That is so cool. And Lola, any experience in the restaurant space at all?
Zero. No.
Zero.
Just as a diner.
Just a fan. Yeah, I love it. Very cool. Very cool. So guys, if obviously we got tons of restaurants, I'll tell you right now that would probably love to get involved with you guys and what they're doing and tons of people in our community. If someone did want to get involved and did want to contribute to this, what would be the best way for them to get into this?
Go to www.dine11.org and there's a donation page where you can donate to the cause. And then there's also a volunteer button that you can click, at least in the Los Angeles. When you go to our website, you can choose what city that you want to go further into the website. And in Los Angeles, you can click on volunteer. You can click on restaurants. So anyone who has a restaurant can click on restaurants, and then there's like a form that you fill out for, just so that we get basic information to put you in the queue. And then there's also a way you can click on hospitals, that if you are a healthcare worker and you want to nominate your ER, ICU, or COVID floor to receive meals, you can do that as well.
Amazing. And so, and you guys are actively choosing the restaurants, or restaurants can also apply to be part of the program, or how does that work?
Oh, I mean, at this point, we're not actively choosing the restaurants. At this point, we have hundreds of restaurants. We have a wait list of restaurants, but we're trying to get everyone. We're really trying to share the love.
Yes.
And spread it out. We have restaurants that have contacted us, and basically we go through systematically. And how it kind of works is, depending on where the hospitals are, we try and match up restaurants that are within that hospital that we have a delivery for. We try and match up a restaurant that is closer to that hospital.
Fantastic. Very cool, guys.
Yeah.
This is incredible. This is such a cool story. I love how quickly you guys adapted to this, the opportunity you saw, and how you dove into this heads first. I mean, it's really, really cool.
Well, the biggest shout out is really to Chris mentioned is to Judy Hahn, who we lucked out. She's a woman who came from the corporate restaurant world.
Yeah.
And she's a mom at my kids' school. Our kids are in the same class. And she was also really close friends with a really good friend of mine who's a caterer, who I mentioned early on. And so we got really lucky that she was sitting idly, just like all of us, wanting to do something. And when she got the call saying, "Hey, do you think that you might want to step in? We need some help organizing this." And that is what she does. And she's just a
human computer. Yeah, she's a human computer, and caring.
She cares about
it's amazing.
And
but so without her, I don't actually think we would have launched at this scale. I mean,
not at this scale.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing, guys. Well, what I'd love to do with you guys is I would love to take this interview today. We're going to broadcast it out to our community full of other restaurant owners and fans alike that I think would love to get involved. Maybe I got plenty of restaurants that would want to add to the wait list, I'm sure, but people who might also want to make donations as well, including ourselves. Here at Misfit, we'd love to make a donation for you guys, and we'll be doing that right after this phone call. So I think what you're doing is fantastic. It's really, really cool. And any kind of final thoughts or words that you want to kind of share with our community?
Just, to just try and give the restaurant some love, try and give them a little bit of attention and orders, and also just human kindness goes a long way.
Yeah. Don't take the things for granted that you took, that we're prone to. I mean, we always would call a restaurant for takeout. You might not be able to do that in a week or a month from now. So just remember 100%. That if you order from them today, they might be around tomorrow.
I love it, guys. So again, if you guys want to, if you want to support your local community, why not start with the restaurants that are around you? Yes. I love what you guys are doing. Again, food is the culture of your community. Food is what makes us who we are. It's how we connect with people. And I think what you're doing is fantastic. This has been incredible, you guys. You guys are doing such an awesome thing here. And we'll be definitely talking about you making donation as a wrap this podcast. So excited to be a part of this. And congrats to you guys for creating something so amazing like you've done today in this last month.
Thank you for having us on. Thank you
very
so
much.
Absolutely, guys. All right, we'll be in contact real soon. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
All right, see ya.